Hello, and thank you for being here. Thank you for your interest in my little talk. My name is Vincent Fröhlich, and the title of the talk is Film is What Belongs to Film, the Reuse of Photographic Pictures and Typographies in Early Illustrated Film Magazines. And for your orientation, the paper will consist of the following 4 parts. The significance of film magazines for delivering information on early or local film screening practices and now lost films can hardly be overestimated, which is also reflected in the frequency with which early film magazines and advertisements are cited or evaluated in works on film history. However, with this research goal, film magazines were used mainly as secondary research objects, as historical sources, or considered as a medium to retrace debates on film theory. Instead, Patrick Rössler, as well as Tamar Jeffers MacDonald, together with Lise Langmann, suggest to place the film magazine at the forefront in a new line of research, to which this paper also ascribes. In this research endeavor, it is no longer just the film magazine that is used as a source of film history and is seen as a relatively neutral container for information, but the medium itself comes to the fore. Film magazines are bound to certain mediality and materiality, a plain paper surface on which the most diverse elements can meet. On this paper surface, a distinct representation and visual understanding of film is shown. I would like to explore one specific aspect of this understanding in the following. The general thesis is that illustrated film magazines incorporate and transform poster layouts, illustrations, and typographies into a journal-specific layout. Following Eric Hoyt's appeal to engage with unexplored film magazines, I chose the Neue Filmwelt here as a case study. For the way illustrated magazines use poster layouts and typographies, it seems important to me to also consider the technological basis of these practices. In its first year, the magazine was printed using letterpress printing with halftone screens. In 1949, a rotogravure process was used instead, accompanied by a change in layout. The rotogravure technique has 2 major advantages. In the halftone process, the gradual gray tones of photographs are translated into a grid of dots of different sizes, which become particularly distinct when enlarging as much as 10 times. Rotogravure, on the other hand, can reproduce the subtle gray tones of photographs much more closely by using a cross-line screen to create uniform, square ink-bearing cells. This cross-line screen pattern becomes clearly visible by magnifying 30 times. For the visual representation of a medium like film, rotogravure is of course clearly a much better reproduction process. Equally important is the second advantage, however, the ease with which type and photography can be combined. In rotogravure, the same plate is completed with text, pictures, and graphics in one step. In addition, all elements of a double-page spread can be arranged beforehand, for example on a light table, so that the layout designer can put the individual components together more easily and also more creatively. Furthermore, rotogravure inks dry quickly, allowing for rapid printing. Despite the high prices of the plates, these characteristics have led to rotogravure being used by numerous illustrated magazines with a special focus on visuality and exceptional design, such as Vue, Arbeiter Illustrierte Zeitung, and USSR in Construction. The use of this technique for these journals was due to rotogravur's ready openness to extreme design, as Andres Mario Servigon puts it. As a kind of inscription, I would like to analyze in the following how the visuality of headlines is used as a carrier of meaning and identification in the Neue Filmwelt. I shall elaborate on this by using the poster as a helpful reference for understanding the special use of typography. A very direct link to the poster is without doubt the frequent reproduction of film poster designs in the Neue Filmwelt. The magazine's wrapper is often filled with one, on the recto page, or sometimes even a full page, recto and last verso page, display of a film poster design. It is mostly the last thing a reader of the journal sees, a printed poster design of a movie. In addition, there's a noticeably high number of long essays on posters in the issues of the Neue Filmwelt. Especially in these heavily illustrated essays on film poster designs, however, the different materiality of the poster is emphasized, and with it, of course, the presentation area of the film magazine that carries the poster reproduction. To make a quick leap from 50 years into the future, even in the year 1999, the German film magazine Cinema uses a strikingly materiality-emphasizing background for the reproduction of historical film posters. By suggesting that the posters lie on top of each other, are pinned to a surface of the film magazine, or that the film magazine is a kind of mega poster on which numerous posters can be placed, the layout evokes a kind of superiority, or at least idiosyncrasy of the illustrated film magazine, in that it is only in the illustrated film magazine that these posters can be combined, framed, and contextualized. Even more, however, less explicit references to the respective poster design of the corresponding film can be found. The following article reports on the 1948 Austrian film Das singende Haus, The Singing House. Once again, it is evident how much the double-page spread is used as a unit here. The two pictures in the middle are divided by the fold, with the headline cut in two equal halves. Picture and writing jump the fold. The film still, which seems to have been the template for the poster design, is placed at the center of the double-page spread. The headline of the article, like the poster, consists simply of the film title without any further text. And even a font is used that is partially similar to that of the poster. Of course, such a visual analogy to the film poster design is not always given, but it is nevertheless striking that the layout or typography of double-page spread share one or two common features with the film poster design, especially when an article has a single film as its subject. To use a further telling example of how explicit the poster is a frame of reference, especially for typography, let's have a look at the representation of the film Fröhlich, 1947. The article on the film uses a typography very similar to the poster and in a similarly diagonal arrangement. The poster design for the film was reproduced on the last recto page of the directly preceding fourth issue. Typography is used here to ascribe a certain typographic identity to a particular film. If we look at the upper and lower image on the first double-page spread about the movie Fröhlich, the typeface is written on the halftone reproduction in such a way that it appears as if it had already been part of the original film still. The pathway for the reading of the verso page is laid via the typographies of the headings following certain steps. The viewer or reader of the journal is thus guided through the very small essay by means of the lettering in the images. To demonstrate how deliberate these inscribings of film stills were, only 2 pages later, film, and in another font, also in Hamburg, is written into the half-tone reproduction of a still of the film Arche Nora, even though originally Arche No was written there in the original film still. Hence, both times letters are actually written into the picture. In the case of Arche Nora, the letters of the film still are used, and in the case of Fröhlich, gestures and surfaces of the film still are utilized. The film magazine makes the film still its own and typographs it. It is precisely these hybrids of headline and image in the film magazine that function as a kind of specific miniature poster, because they use the direct, persuasive use of typographic message of the film poster to arouse curiosity about both the film in question and the article. This brings us to the second point, that typographies inscribe a recurring identity to the corresponding film and thus also to the visual representation of film. The hybrid of image and writing offers a kind of graphic keyword to a certain film, or in the Neue Filmwelt to national film culture. Here too, the reference to the film poster is helpful. Film titles nourish our imagination beforehand and subsequently provide the keywords under which the film is saved, in the archive or in memory. And the poster, this catchword, gets its visual presentation. The title relates to the poster design in a variety of ways and gains iconic value by breaking away from mere typographic functionality and becoming imaginative, for each letter is not only part of the meaning of the word, but as a grapheme becomes a pictorial element. The headlines in Neue Filmwelt carry out a similar translation process, especially when they report on individual films, since they also function as mediators between the projected audiovisual and moving medium of film and the paper-bound magazine print with a focus on written letters and still-standing pictures. The typeface is used particularly striking as a graphic element. Almost no article's headline is the same as another in the one issue. Not only every film, but also every article is given a typographic identity of its own. Again, this is mainly possible due to the technical features, as extraordinary typographies increase with the shift to rotogravure. It is now also much more common for the headlines to protrude into the image, to appear as a part of the image, to function as a kind of signet, or to have the image partly as background. Admittedly, the poster functions differently in its communication, because film posters are mainly advertisements for the respective film. But despite these differences, it is also important to note that Germany has a long history of poster design and so far unexplored close connection between magazine and poster layout, which can be seen in other magazines as well, most prominently, of course, in Das Plakat, the magazine Das Plakat. In summary, the film poster appears as an important reference medium for the illustrated film magazine Neue Filmwelt. This reference point is played with, pictorial and typographic elements are taken from it, making it possible for the film magazine to rely on the expressiveness of the poster. The striking associations also make the noticeably double-page spread that dominates the layout of the Neue Filmwelt resemble the one of the poster. The analysis has revealed a double strategy of the film magazine Neue Filmwelt for dealing with film. On the one hand, Neue Filmwelt is constantly highlighting its very own print territory. Film still are made one's own, and the Neue Filmwelt inscribes itself onto them. Of course, inscribing, positioning, and appropriating are correlating aspects that reveal themselves not only in illustrated film magazines, but as a special interest magazine, the interest here being cinema, the film magazine positions itself in a relation to film. The illustrated film magazine Neue Filmwelt thus finds itself in a constant balancing act between the actual visual and material absence of film, which goes hand in hand with the autonomy of the magazine, and at the same time the constant assertion of the visual and material presence of the special interest. Precisely because of this reference, visuality and mediality, and as a basis the technical conditions, must be understood as essential parts of the negotiation and production of knowledge in this journal. A subliminal media competition always resonates in the relationship between film and film magazine, the dependence of the latter on the former. What does the film magazine offer that cinema does not? In the beginning, I asked what kind of film knowledge and film understanding the small archives of the illustrated film magazine negotiate in their presentation and selection, precisely in their mainly disregarded so far visuality, in their appearance, in their essential material presence. Of course, within the scope of this paper, I can only attempt to answer this question. Nevertheless, the analysis undertaken here have already shown that it is possible to propose the following as a thesis. We have to consider film magazines as an intermediate object that frames its relationships of text and image not so much by film itself, but more by the knowledge and picture we have of the medium film. The magazine ends up taking a distinct identity because it molds all its text, images, and graphics marked by the commonly understood vocabulary of film and material belonging to film. The illustrated film magazine is thus much more than a historical source. It is also an aesthetic and material object with references and at the same time constitutes, via its visuality, a special knowledge about film. Thank you very much for your time and for your presence. I hope to see you very soon, and all the best.